Okay.
Okay, hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be invited to give this talk today. And I'm Shao Dian from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And I'm currently a fourth-year PhD student at Multimedia Lab. And my supervisor is Professor Dahua Lin and Xiao Tang. And today my topic is fine-grained event and action analysis in videos. Okay, for video-related tasks, we first claim that the fine-grained capability should at least involve two aspects. The first is semantical. That is, we hope a model could be able to recognize the subtly different categories through all levels of semantical hierarchies. And the second is temporal aspect. That is, we hope the model could be able to decompose a relatively complex action or activity into smaller elements. So accordingly, I also organize my research works into firstly a semantic map. The works done in my PhD life starts from video analysis, and then I take a step further to focus on a more specific aspect that is called human action understanding. So as you can see that what lies at the core of my research works is this data set called FineGym. FineGym in dark orange color. FineGym just challenge a lot of existing methods, for example, those recognition methods and detection methods. And also FineGym is able to support a variety of new tasks. Here, AQA short for action question answering, and for example, sub-action detection, etc. Here I show the temporal line of these works. I start my research at the year 2017, and first my research was mainly focuses on, for example, video retrieval, video embedding, video analysis, and then we take a step further to focus on human action understanding. Human action understanding starts from building the dataset called tapas, and we also devise a framework called transposer based on this dataset. And then through the construction of tapas, we find some problems, and then we start a new project called FineGym. So this is an ongoing effort, and we also steadily enrich the annotations of FineGym in the future. And FineGym could support a lot of new tasks, including action question answering and sub-action detection, etc. Okay, in the following slides, I will introduce some of the published works. The first is Find and Focus, Retrieve and Localize Video Events with Natural Language Queries. This is published on the year 2018 European Conference on Computer Vision. Okay, we can see that people just record videos and upload videos to the internet every day. So getting information off the internet is like taking a drink from a fire hydrant. It's really a disaster. In the background of this work is that we can see the explosion of videos on the internet. And those videos have the trend to be longer and longer, and they usually contain more diverse contents. And at that point, most methods just usually embed each video as a whole, namely, they embed a video into one feature vector. The limitation is that such way just has very limited expressive power to represent a relatively diverse video. So we say that retrieving a video that one really wants is sometimes like finding a needle in a haystack. So we hope the ideality is just like the left figure, but actually the reality is just like this right figure. So what did we do? We just moved beyond this limitation by delving into the internal structures of both sides. Which two sides? The queries and the videos. So specifically, we propose a new framework called Find and Focus. From the name, you can see that this framework has two stages. The first stage, the find stage, is a relatively coarse-grained top-level matching stage. And the focus stage is a more fine-grained stage. It performs part-level associations through video clips and sentences. So through these two stages, we can find the video you really want. So at first, we introduce the two-level structured formulation of the data. To elaborate, videos could be decomposed into clips, and paragraphs could be break into sentences, as shown in this figure. And based on such two-level structured formulation of data, we devised a framework. This framework is also has two stages. The top level matching here, the find stage, just perform a coarse-grained searching. And this is very quick, and it could narrow the search scope. And then we pick the top K, for example, top 100 videos to perform the focus stage. The focus stage is a more fine-grained stage. So through this more fine-grained focus stage, the results could be refined. For example, here, the ground truth video is re-ranked from number 4 to number 1. And the most important thing about this Find and Focus FIFO framework is the focus stage. The focus stage has 3 steps. The first step is feature extraction. This is a common paradigm, so it could be improved currently through more, for example, more powerful models. And the second step is to do the clip proposal. This is done through calculating the semantic similarity between each sentence and the visual features, so we could get a curve. And through analyzing this semantic similarity curve, we could achieve those clip proposals. And during training, we will randomly pick one positive clip proposal and L negative proposals. So for more details, how to generate those clip proposals, you can refer to the original papers. Here with a set of sentences and a set of clip proposals, we could perform cross-domain matching. This cross-domain matching is done through robust bipartite matching. And I omit the quantitative results and those qualitative results because it's a little boring. So we can see a demo. The demo is always interesting. So a river, a dog, a bridge, every video through find stage may have dog, may have water, may have bridge. But when we perform the fine-grained focus stage, we find river, we find the dog working, we find the bridge, and we say, oh, this is the video I want. More samples. Okay, a male and woman reporter, and a man shovels the driveway, and a man talks from an office, and a young reporter in the street continues talking. Okay, another example. He picks a glass of whiskey, and she pushes herself towards him and then kiss. Okay, this is about this work. So we can see that human matters in human-centric videos. So then we take a step further to focus on a more specific aspect of video, that is human action understanding. The first work about human action understanding is this work, in-train interaction understanding via temporal action parsing. This is accepted by last year's CVPR conference. So my co-author Dabo is in this Zoom room currently now. The background of this work is that we can see the limitation of existing techniques and data sets. They just focus on coarse-grained action categories. So here we have a question. Do we need to take a step further into the temporal structures of action instances? As shown in the bottom, current methods, they just extract feature vectors from action instances, and it predicts an action class called triple jump. And current data sets, such as UCF-101, they just provide coarse-grained categories, for example, playing violin, and or some provide temporal boundaries of actions in untrimmed videos. The motivation of this work, the first is about the cognitive evidence, that is, humans are sensitive to boundaries of subactions. But labels provided by humans are sometimes ambiguous and inconsistent. For example, open refrigerator and closed refrigerator are annotated as the same classes in some data sets. And for example, cut tomato and maybe cut watermelon are annotated as different classes in some data sets, but they share the same motion pattern cut. So we propose to annotate the boundaries of sub-actions instead of their categories. And we propose to analyze actions at a finer granularity. Two aspects. The first is exploring their internal structure. That is called intra-action understanding. The second is discovering their mutual relationships. That is interaction understanding. So here are some figures to show what is interaction understanding and what is interaction understanding. Interaction understanding is that one specific subaction may commonly appear in various actions. For example, here, a handspring may appear in a tumbling action instance and may also appear in a vault routine. Here we can see that intra-action understanding is how action instances are made of sub-actions. Here, a triple jump may have 3 stages. And based on such observations, we build a data set called TAPAS, short for Temporal Action Parsing of Olympic Sports. And we just annotate the boundaries of sub-actions. Based on this data set, we propose a new task called temporal action parsing. That is, an action can be representative by a set of middle-level sub-actions. And the goal of a model is to identify the starting frames of sub-actions. And on top of TAPAS, we devise a novel method called transposer. Transposer is capable of mining sub-actions without knowing the labels of them. Here is a working pipeline of transposer. Due to the time limitation, I will just introduce this very quickly. First, we extract features of action instance. And these raw features are amplified, strengthened by this SPS unit. Here is the mining process of sub-actions. We have randomly initialized the pattern miner, and this miner is learned through the training process. And we will learn a lot of sub-action patterns. And the parsing results are achieved through comparing frame level features to those sub-action patterns. So the core is the soft pattern strength units, and the training is done through local loss and global loss. The global loss is to ensure the accurate category, and the local loss is to encourage frames within the same sub-action to be similar to each other, and frames selected from different sub-actions to be different from each other. Okay, we did a lot of experiments. Those baseline methods adapted from, for example, recognition models or action segmentation models. Our method outperforms all baseline methods by a large margin, but there is still a huge gap compared with human performance. So here are very important experiments. You may ask a question, why should we do temporal action parsing? So here we demonstrate that good models that could produce very good parsing results could contribute to better action classification performance. The use of temporal structures could significantly help the performance of action recognition. To explain a little, as you can see, if you could firstly pass a complex action instances into several sub-actions, you can just pick frames from each sub-action and to represent these actions. And the aggregation of these frames could represent the actions better. So here are the qualitative analysis. In the middle part, in the right half of the middle part, different rows of the pattern manner are responsive for different sub-actions. And given a complete instance of voting, you can see here at the bottom, the voting. First, the blue line dominant, and then the brown line, and finally the green line. So 3 stages are clearly observed. And for example, you use this green line, this pattern 3, to retrieve. You can find similar sub-actions in other categories of actions. This is called interaction understanding. We also evaluate our transposer on action segmentation dataset, this 50 salads. So instances in the same box are annotated to be different actions in 50 salads. For example, please potato, please chase, add pepper, add oil. But you can see these share similar motion patterns. And so our transposer just predicted them as the same classes. This is more consistent with human cognition process. Here, let's see a demo. So a voting. Okay, sub-action 1 and its retrieval results. The first green line is just seems like approach running. And we could see different approach running in different action classes. Sub-action 2 is some kind of solo. We could observe such solo in different action instances. And the last one, the landing process. Okay, here's another example. Okay, we will not see another example because time is so limited. So for more details, you can just scan this QR code to go to the home project homepage for more details. So problems occurred during the construction of tapas. What are those problems? We observe that noisy annotations appear on gymnastic categories. That is, low human consistency on sub-action boundaries. So why? We intuitively point out some possible reasons. The first is that action instances from gymnastics are relatively long. The second is the high diversity of actions and human poses of gymnastic actions. And the second is to annotate the sub-actions of gymnastic actions, we require expert knowledge. So based on these problems, we built a new project called FineGym, a hierarchical video dataset for fine-grained action understanding. This paper is accepted as the oral representation by last year's CVPR and luckily got a 3 strong accept from all the reviewers. The content of FineGym mainly contains two parts. The first part, I will introduce the dataset. The second part, I will introduce those empirical studies based on FineGym. So let's firstly quickly review the challenges of building this dataset. The first is how to collect data. Current datasets mainly come from two ways: crawling from the internet or self-recording from invited workers. But both are not applicable in our situation. For example, fine gym category double solo backward talk with to twist. You can search this keyword on YouTube. You may find that the return results merely match these keywords. And self-recording by common people is also not applicable. So even we have the data, we need to define and organize the categories, and we also need to collect annotations. Finally, and we also need to control the quality of the dataset, without which we may face severe troubles as errors would propagate along the hierarchies. The first problem, we solved the problem of defining and organizing categories. We resort to the official documentation provided by experts, and we derive 15 sets from 4 events from the latest official codebook. And then we utilize a decision tree consisting of attribute-based queries to guide the decision for providing the most fine-grained categories, as shown in this figure. Okay, here I'd like to elaborate the annotation process of FineGym. First, we ask the annotators to identify the temporal boundaries of action instances within a computation video. For example, here a balance beam, and balance beam is the event level category. And the balance beam may contain a lot of sub-actions. For example, here a sub-action in the red box. And we ask the annotator to identify the temporal boundary of sub-action. And each sub-action will have 2 levels of semantic categories. The first is set level category, leap, jump, hop. And through the tree reasoning process, it could achieve a more fine-grained element level category called wolf jump, hip angle, and 55 knees together. So finally, the dataset FineGym has 2-level semantic hierarchy and had 3-level semantic hierarchy and 2-level temporal hierarchy. And the quality control is done through annotator training, rigorous pretesting, miscellaneous reference material, cross-validation, and quick feedback during the annotation process. Here, I'd like to iterate the properties of FineGym. Finally, we have FineGym has more than 30,000 element level instances from 4 winning events: vault, floor exercise, balance beam, and uneven bars. FineGym has a lot of good properties. For example, high quality due to the top level computations, the high resolution reduced, the well-trained annotators, and the official documents. Richness and diversity, for example, the rich temporal dynamics contained in those actions. Action-centric, because all element level instances in FineGym have very consistent backgrounds. So this will direct the focus of models on human actions instead of those background things. And the use of decision trees provide more information than a single category and make the whole process more interpretable. Okay, let's compare FineGym with previous dataset. Previous datasets, the label set are not well structured, but the category or temporal system of FineGym has rich hierarchies. And also, classes from FineGym are really subtly different from each other, as you can see here. These 2 instances even have different set level category. They are from different sets, but they already looks very similar. And here, from UCF 101, playing violin and skiing, they looks very different, have very different background things. And there are also some data sets focused on fine-grained action, mostly action segmentation data sets, and they mostly focus on kitchen activities. So to build such data sets require little domain knowledge. And also, you can see these two GIF. Those actions in those data sets are mostly small or hand motion. And for example, actions in FineGym just involve very rapid movements and very intense motions. This poses higher requirements for action detection, for person detection models, and also for pose estimation models. Okay, we see that target achieve show me the experiments. Firstly, we analyze two classical tasks, semantic task action recognition. We pick TSN as the representative. And as you can see that from coarse to fine, the performance drops dramatically. And also the contribution of static cues, namely this green bar, the RGB modality contribute less, and the yellow bar, the flow modality contribute more. This shows that temporal dynamics is very important for fine-grained action analysis. And the temporal task, action detection, we pick SSN as a representative. And we can see there's a large gap between action detection and sub-action detection. So this gap calls for more researchers to devote themselves. So here are more element level action recognition results. We pick different types of models, for example, 2D based, say 3D based models, and those models use post modality, for example, STGCN. And so based on these results, we did a lot of analysis. The first is about sampling. Sparse sampling is widely adopted in previous works because they have very high efficiency. So as you can see that this top two line, the red line UCF101, the gray line activity net, we can see saturated results on existing datasets using only few frames. But things are different on FineGym. We can see that when we increase the number of frames, the performance of TSN will steadily increase on gym-netting line. So this shows that every frame counts for fine-grained action understanding. The second analysis is about temporal modeling. This figure shows flow modality contribute more than the RGB modality. This shows that motion dynamics is really important. So we pick two more methods, TRN and TSM. Both of them has modules to model long-term temporal dynamics. So as the middle part shows, when we shuffle the input frames of TRN, the performance will drop very severely. And when we use a very different number of test frames, and the TSM performance will also drop. So this shows that currently there are models that focus on temporal modeling, but they are not robust enough. And we encourage researchers to devise more and robust and better modules to model these temporal dynamics. The next analysis about pre-training. As we all know that if we want to perform video tasks, we just pre-train those large models on kinetics dataset. You can see that I3D model pre-trained on kinetics, the performance will be boosted when you perform action recognition task on UCF101. But things are also different on our FineGym. We can see that pre-training on kinetics may not always helpful. So we guess this might, due to the reason for this might be that the coarse grain temporal pattern and the fine grain temporal pattern, they are different. So we also provide some possible aspects that some aspects that are not well solved by current models. For example, the intense motion, different kind of solos, The subtle spatial semantics, for example, if whether the front leg is bent uh, or the back leg is bent. Complex temporal dynamics, the direction of motion, the degree of rotation, and also the reasoning ability. FineGEM could also support various potential applications, including, as I mentioned, action recognition and action detection. For example, auto-scoring, action generation due to the consistent background, multi-attribute prediction due to the use of decision trees, and model interpretation due to the tree paths in the decision trees. And FineGEM also induced a lot of this new discussion. For example, how to strike a balance between accuracy and efficiency when dealing with highly informative yet slightly different actions, and how to model the complex temporal dynamics efficiently, effectively, and robustly. So here's a demo showing the annotation of FineGEM. We can see here the computation start. Okay, we annotate action start. The event is floor exercise. So this is the first stage of annotation and action end. The next, we show the detailed illustration of fine-grained annotation. Action start. The event label is balance beam. Simon Biles. I like her. Sub-action start. 3 turning tuck stand on one leg. Sub-action end. Okay, sub-action start. Leap jump hop, straddle pike jump. Sub-action end. You can see that the sub-action is really short. And action instances usually contain a lot of sub-actions. Okay. She's going to perform the dismount. So flight handspring, flip flag to land on both feet. Sub-action end. Okay. Dismount. Double shoulder backward tuck with one twist. Sub-action end. And also this action end. And the computation usually contains a lot of different sub-action instances. Okay, the computation end. Here is an illustration of tree-based process. For example, toes touch the bar during circle? Yes. 2 legs together when toes on bar? Yes. So this just alleviates the difficulty of the annotation process. And finally, you will reach the leaf node. That is pike so circle backward with one turn on handstand. Okay. Here I show the categories of fine-grained data set. So many fine-grained categories. And here are some data samples. The first row from vault, the second row from uneven bars, the third row from floor exercise. You can see they are very similar to each other. And the construction of FineGEM just brought a lot of new tasks, as I introduced. For example, action question answering, which aim to encourage the research towards more comprehensive understanding of actions. For example, here I show some data samples. We can ask spatial questions. In what body position does the gymnast do the shoulder tucked? Temporal question. What does she do right after taking off with 2 feet? Answer, double shoulder backward tucked with 2 turns. Counting question, how many turns does the gymnast do during the shoulder? 2 turns. Some more samples. And also new task called sub-action detection. So to differentiate between action detection and sub-action detection, action detection works on trimmed videos and tries to localize action instances from irrelevant background segments. And sub-action detection works with in-action instances and targets at identifying semantically rich subsegments from trivial motions. So sub-action detection poses new challenges. For example, uniform background. That means you cannot use the change of background to identify the boundary of actions. Also, complex action. Gymnastics actions involve complex dynamics of the human body. Also, short durations. Some sub-action are just less than 1 second. And obscure boundaries, because sub-actions are often interleaved with irrelevant motions. Okay, this semantic map again. I like this sentence from Professor Li Feifei. A good research project is not about the past, it's about the future. And good research is just, you should have good idea and you should have solid basis. And you just find a breakpoint and you accumulate your building blocks. With your accumulation, combined with a good idea, you can do good research works. So that's all about today's talk. This is one of my favorite quotes from Alan Turing. We can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done. Thank you.